Please be seated.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. And we'll continue with the state's case. I think Detective Ratzburg, Lieutenant Ratzburg, was being examined by Mr. Chambers.
That is correct. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Detective Ratzburg, I'd asked you to pull up the box that contains the medications that were recovered at the Jensen residence.
Yes.
And you have that box there. I'd ask you to pull out anything that contains Benadryl.
There would be 2 Benadryl packages on the inventory, it's noted. And this is Benadryl allergy chewables.
Okay, are there any left in the box there?
Yes.
Could you please display them to the jury, hold them up so the jury can see what it looks like? And then, was there any other item in there that contains Benadryl?
Yes.
Label as Benadryl?
This is Benadryl allergy decongestant.
And could you pull out whatever's in the package there?
Obviously, several blue and apparently 1 used.
And I can't see those tablets or gel caps. Oh, why don't I come and look at them? So.
And 1 is chewables.
And these appear to be tablets, caplets.
Yes.
And in fact, it's labeled 24 tablets. Did you find any liquid Benadryl in the residence?
No.
Now, you had, you can put that aside now, Detective, thank you. Yeah. You not hearing? I'm going to, maybe it's better now. Is that better? Okay, thank you. I show you this item that's been marked as Exhibits S-232. I believe that's already been received into evidence, and describe to the jury what that is, please.
This would be the planner of Mr. Mark Jensen, the planner of 1998.
And that was the very item that was photographed, portions that were photographed by Julie Jensen and turned over to Officer Cosman. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm going to show you S-173, which contains what appears to be a photograph out of that day planner, Mark Jensen's day planner, correct?
That is correct.
There's no writing on the page itself, correct?
Correct.
But there is a Post-it note.
Yes.
And that was one of the items that Julie Jensen had photographed.
Yes.
Could you read what's on that Post-it note?
The Post-it note is own drug supply, and then down below it says Nicotril, NS period. Underneath that is aspirin. Underneath that is bottle dash booze, B-O-O-Z-E. Under that is razor blade, and with an S, apparently razor blades. Librium shells, it's not proper. It's L-I-B-R-I-A, and I can't make out the other letters. And then there's a dash, and then shells, S-H-E-L-L-S. And then it has below that Defazio. Across from that to the right would be bag hand, or H-A-N-D, and I can't make out the other mark. And then below Defazio is Terry, patches, and below that is shells, and then on the bottom is syringe.
No, and that's on a Post-it note that's contained on the page, correct?
Correct.
Now, was that Post-it note in the day planner when you recovered it on December 3rd?
No.
Now, when you recovered that day planner, did you recover the entire day planner?
Yes.
And did you retain custody of the entire day planner from that point that you recovered it until today's date?
These selected items, I've retained custody of it, yes.
Well, what about the rest of it?
I returned it to Mr. Jensen.
So tell us what part you retained and what part you returned to Mr. Jensen.
Well, I returned everything that's not here, I guess would be a simple answer.
Okay, well, can you tell us what is not there?
The previous days in 1998, from November going backwards.
So what portion of the calendar do you have there? What's the first day of the calendar that you actually retained possession of?
Which particular month, sir?
Look at what you got there. What's the first day that's depicted in that calendar that you have there?
November 1st.
All of October and the months preceding October were returned to Mr. Jensen, is that correct?
The individual pages were, yes.
And when was that returned to Mr. Jensen?
It was in December. I'd have to look at my report for the exact date.
But it was sometime in December of 1998?
Yes.
And what was the reason did Mr. Jensen ask for it?
Yes.
Did he give you a reason as to why he wanted it?
He had a function at work. There were a lot of work clients that he had in there, phone numbers and other contacts, and he was having a hard time doing his job without that planner. That was his work planner.
So you returned it to him at his request?
Yes.
Detective, I don't remember. Is the inventory of medications, has that been marked with an exhibit?
That is Exhibit S-257.
And has that been received into evidence yet? If not, I'd move S-257 into evidence subject to cross-examination.
No objection.
In fact, I need to look at the exhibit list to see what exactly has been received and what hasn't been received, because I think this might be a good time to. Could I confer with counsel for just a moment off the record, Your Honor?
I want to tell you folks while that's going on, that I am expecting one or more very important telephone calls, and I may have to take them while we're in progress, and you'll hear it. You'll be the first to hear. So I apologize in advance for that, but it is imperative that I take these calls.
Your Honor, at this point, I just want to minimize the number of points of contention. I would move S-252, which is the bag of medications, in evidence.
Why don't we just do these one by one?
That's-
No objection to 252 in the bag of medication.
I would move S-255 and S-256, which are the notes from Julie's log that was testified to yesterday.
No objection.
I would move S-257, the inventory of medications, into evidence.
You just did that.
Yeah, yes.
No, and there's no objection.
I would move S-233, the blue bowl and spoon, into evidence.
No objection.
All received without objection.
I would move S-242, which is the paroxetine paper, into evidence.
No objection.
I would move S-245, Julie Jensen's summary, into evidence.
The what?
S-245, career summary.
No objection.
I have no further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
The offered exhibits are received. Cross-examine.
Mr. Ratzburg, you wrote
a number of reports in this case, correct?
Yes.
At least initially, the way the reports were being compiled is all reports prepared by your department were put into the computer and given consecutive page numbers. Is that right?
Yes.
Just so we're clear, like Officer Riley did his report, and if that was a 3-page report, that was page 1 to 3, and if yours was the next report, then yours would be 4 to 7 or whatever it is, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, that's how it was done, right?
Yeah, we put them in, and I'm trying to think, because that's the old Clues software, a little bit different than what we use now, so, yes.
And generally, those are put together in chronological order. You yourself kept kind of a continuing narrative of your activities in this case, right?
Yes,
You had training in writing police reports.
yes,
As of 1998, you had, what did you say, 15 to 18 years experience as an officer?
yes,
15 to 18 years of experience in writing reports, correct?
yes,
You were trained and your experience taught you to make reports as accurate as possible, correct?
yes,
To make them as complete as possible.
yes,
Over the years, you've had thousands of cases.
yes,
It's difficult to keep each one of those investigations distinct from the others, correct?
sometimes,
You've learned that it makes, well, you were trained to do your reports as soon after the activities as possible, correct?
yes,
And that's so nothing interferes with your memory, correct?
yes,
Makes it more accurate if you do it when it's fresh in your mind, right?
yes,
It's especially difficult to remember the precise times at which certain activities took place if you don't note them almost immediately.
yes,
And at the time, I presume at the time of Julie Jensen's death, you probably had dozens of pending cases then. Would that be fair to say?
I'm not sure if it's dozens, but I had more than one case, that's a fair statement.
And after Julie Jensen's death, you had new cases that continued to come in over the years, right?
Yes,
Your intent in writing those reports is to include all the information that you think is important, right?
yes,
You compiled witness statements in this case, correct?
yes,
Those would be the kinds of things that you'd immediately note in your report so that there wouldn't be any mistakes later on about what the witness reported, correct?
I'm not sure what you mean by immediately. Immediately put it on my report, is that your question?
Correct.
Not necessarily. Sometimes you would get a statement, you'd get busy, and maybe you would write the report a day or two later, as opposed to your word immediately.
Sure, that's fair. But you want to do that within a couple of days.
A reasonable amount of time, yes.
You know that the prosecutor is going to rely on your reports, right?
Yes,
You know that the defense, if there ends up being a criminal prosecution, will get those reports.
yes,
And so the prosecutor knows what's going on. You need to be complete and accurate, right?
yes,
And to be fair to the defense, you need to be complete and accurate, true?
yes,
You were the lead investigator in this case, is that right?
yes, probably the only and lead.
So from December 3rd, 1998 to present, this has been your case.
Yes,
You made decisions about which witnesses to interview, correct?
well, we try to interview all witnesses, but yes,
And that was your responsibility, is to decide which witnesses to interview, right?
yes,
It was your responsibility and decision to decide when to interview witnesses, correct?
yes,
It was your decision which evidence to collect,
yes,
it was your determination as to which evidence ought to be forwarded to the crime lab for testing, correct?
Correct.
If you make the wrong decision about what evidence to collect, then there's a risk that the evidence will be lost forever, true?
Absolutely, yes.
You need to ensure that evidence is not contaminated, correct?
Yes.
And you understand that if witnesses are not spoken with promptly, their memories may be affected, correct?
Yes.
Their memories are affected by the passage of time.
Yes.
Their memories are affected by other information that they may hear from other people.
True.
What other people say may influence their memories, right?
Yes.
And over time, if people hear something about a case, they may become biased, correct?
Yes.
And that bias may cause a witness to remember things differently than what originally occurred, true?
It could.
And when you're investigating a case, you want to be careful that evidence and witnesses' memories are not contaminated. Would that be fair to say?
That would be fair to say.
On December 3rd, 1998, Officer Riley spoke with Mr. Jensen, correct?
Yes.
You spoke with Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Mr. Jensen told you that he was at the office that day.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
You know that from Officer Riley's report, correct?
Objection is irrelevant and it's hearsay.
Judge, this goes, one, it's already in evidence. Second, it's not being offered for the truth, but what this witness did or did not do in this investigation.
That's irrelevant. Explaining why he did something is not generally relevant. And the fact that it may elsewhere be in the evidence, and I'm not saying it is, does not excuse its hearsay nature. The objection is sustained.
Detective Ratzburg, after December 3rd, you did not go to Mr. Jensen's office and interview any of his coworkers in December 1998, correct?
Say that one more time.
Sure. Let's just say in December of 1998, you did not go to Mr. Jensen's office and interview his coworkers, correct?
No, I did not.
You did not talk to any of those coworkers as to whether Mr. Jensen was in the office on December 3rd, correct?
In, what's your time frame?
In December 1998.
Still in
I'm sorry,
December?
yeah, thank you
Yep.
for the clarification.
Yes. No, I did not.
You were aware that Mr. Jensen had asserted he was in the office.
Objection, hearsay.
His objection is sustained.
In 1999, you did not go to Mr. Jensen's office and interview any of his coworkers to determine whether Mr. Jensen had been in the office December 3rd, right?
Right.
You didn't do that in 2000 or 2001 either, correct?
I did not.
It wasn't until after Mr. Jensen was charged in March 2002 that you ever interviewed any of Mr. Jensen's coworkers to talk to them about whether Mr. Jensen had been at work on December 3rd, correct?
Correct.
You'd acknowledge that their memories likely would not have improved over time as to whether Mr. Jensen was at work on December 3rd?
You have a particular time frame? You said December 3rd?
Between December 3rd, 1998 and after March 2002.
Actually, when I spoke with the coworkers, that was quite an event at work that Julie Jensen passed on. So some of them remember that day in particular.
Well, that's
As
what
an
they...
event that took place at the office.
Right. My question, Detective Ratzburg, is would you expect their memories to improve during that period of time?
Probably not, no.
That is, they likely could have given you much greater detail in the week after December 3rd, 1998, correct?
Possibly.
And there is the risk that their memories could be contaminated by bias, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained. No, I overruled.
You said by bias?
Yes.
Possibly.
That their memories could be contaminated by the allegations that were made against Mr. Jensen that were publicly included in the complaint in the newspaper accounts, right?
Objection, Your Honor. There's no foundation and calls for speculation. No evidence that anybody that he talked to had ever read the complaint at the time he spoke to them.
The objection's overruled. I'm sorry, ma'am, are those prescription lenses? Go ahead.
Repeat that, please.
I'm sorry, I have it read back.
Question that their memories could be contaminated by the allegations that were made against Mr. Jensen that were publicly included in the complaint and in the newspaper accounts, right?
That's possible.
On December 4th, 1998, one day after Mrs. Jensen's death, you interviewed Mr. and Mrs. Voigt, correct?
Yes?
You interviewed a Carrie Ashley around that time as well, true?
Have a better time frame?
In December, how about in December of 1998?
Very good. Yes.
You did not speak with any other neighbors at that time, correct?
Again, when you say at that time, I'm assuming you mean December.
December 1998. Thank you for the clarification.
I talked with several people in December 1998. I recall speaking with the Ashleys and the Voights. I believe that's all that I spoke with in 98.
Right, and so my question was, did you speak with any other neighbors besides the Ashleys or the Voights? And it sounds like you did not. Is that right?
That sounds accurate.
You did not speak with any of the neighbors besides the Ashleys or the Voights all the way through the time Mr. Jensen was charged in 2002, correct?
I'm not sure. I have to reflect my report to be absolutely sure. There were some people I spoke with on the phone. There were other concerned neighbors that called the police department. And I couldn't tell you who those are offhand, but there were certainly other people contacting me.
Are you saying that that was before Mr. Jensen was charged in 2002?
Yes, possibly.
Neighbors, do you have your report with you, Detective?
I do not.
Okay.
Because some of them changed the page.
Okay, thank you.
Detective Ratzburg will show you as defendant exhibit 258.
Are you able to identify that as the Pleasant Prairie Police Report? I think that one was printed, maybe you could give me the date, in 2002?
That is correct. It is my report reference this case. And your question was before 2002, sir?
Before Mr. Jensen was charged, did you speak with any other neighbors besides the Ashleys or the Voights?
Can you just take a look at that? I just give you, just for a second.
Detective Ratzburg, was there any other neighbor that you spoke with?
Besides the Ashley and the Whites?
Correct.
No.
Did you ever interview another neighbor besides the Ashleys and the Voights?
Possibly.
Can you tell me who that would be and when?
Well, they didn't have any knowledge of this matter or possibly of the Jensens. So I can record their information if I did.
Well, do you know who you spoke with?
I do not.
Are you certain that you did speak with someone?
Yes, I am.
Can you describe that person?
A male, he called the police department, was inquiring about that and identified himself as a neighbor.
And what did he have to say if you called the police
I
department?
think he wanted to know, he was trying to interrogate me as far as what was going on. And I asked him if he had any information, and he said not really, and that was the end of it.
You didn't keep any record of that kind of conversation?
I did not.
In turning to page 16 of your report, Detective Ratzburg,
It's like 20 blocks away. Okay.
Sure, what page, Council?
16.
Thank you.
Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir, I am.
And inviting your attention to the last sentence of the, it's just called the middle paragraph regarding the Ashleys.
Yes,
Now, you contacted the Ashleys within just a few days of Julie Jensen's death, correct?
actually, Miss Ashley contacted me. She was contacting me on a regular basis. I would say every couple of weeks. She was wondering what was going on with the case. She was a friend of the Jensens.
Well, what you wrote in this, is your reference here in this report at this time, you wrote that regarding in a discussion you had with Carrie Ashley very soon after the death of Mrs. Jensen, right?
Yes,
And what you wrote at that time in your report is, in speaking to the Ashleys, they knew little about the Jensens, except the police contacted them some time ago about prowlers around their home. Is that right?
that was in
Objection, Your Honor,
reference.
this is hearsay. How is this relevant?
Well, what you, it's hearsay.
Well, it's inconsistent with what Carrie Ashley had to say, and it's also inconsistent with what this witness just testified.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, I don't recall Ms. Ashley being asked about anything about this, whether she specifically made this statement. I don't recall any cross-examination of Carrie Ashley on whether she made this statement.
I'm going to, as I think about it, I'm going to overrule the objection.
Well, as I recall speaking with the Ashleys, it's probably not phrased well, but this is in reference to prowlers around the Jensen home. If you look at the paragraph after that, in speaking to the Ashleys, they knew little about the Jensens, except the police contacted them some time ago about prowlers around their home. It's probably not phrased well, but Mrs. Ashley was calling me, I would say, every couple of weeks. She was a very concerned neighbor. She told me about the garbage.
Well,
I'm sorry.
here's the thing.
You want me to finish or no?
No, because I didn't ask that, question. And what I want to find out is about this particular contact, okay? And you spoke with the Ashleys immediately after Julie Jensen's death, right?
You meaning immediately soon after?
Within a week, right?
Fair statement.
And what you were doing within a week is to try to find out what the neighbors might be able to tell you about Julie Jensen and about Mark Jensen, correct?
Correct.
You weren't investigating harassment at that time. You were investigating Julie Jensen's death, true?
Yes.
And what you said is, in speaking to the Ashleys, they knew little about the Jensens, except that the police had contacted them some time ago about prowlers around their home. True?
Is that what I know, or is that what's on my report?
That's what you said in the report, correct?
You could make that out of my report, yes.
When you're talking about phone calls that were made from Terry Ashley, those happened later on, true?
Yes, in fact, I believe I readdressed this further in my report about Mrs. Ashley and her concerns.
My concern, sir, is that your interview with the Ashleys, within a week after Julie Jensen's death, what you reported is that the Ashleys didn't really know the Jensens. Correct?
The Ashleys knew the Jensens.
Then why would you, there's no dispute, I don't think, about that, but why would you write, sir, in your report, the Ashleys knew little about the Jensens?
And that refers to the prowler issue, and that's what I meant in the report. As you pointed out, it's probably not well phrased, but that's what, they didn't know the Jensens back in the 91, 92, and up to 90, whatever, about the prowling. I recall Mrs. Ashley telling me,
Objection, counsel's interrupting the witness, Your Honor. He's asking about the interview.
The witness shall be permitted to answer the question. Answer the question.
I lost my train of thought here with your argument.
Ask another question.
Well, I'm trying to, and I'm sorry for interrupting. I wanted to make sure that you were talking about the conversation you had with Miss Ashley within a week after Julie Jensen's death, not what she told you some other time. So that's all I was trying to do is clarify what was told to you in that conversation, that first conversation.
And during that conversation, as it's noted, I asked her about the prowlers or if she knew anything about that. And what I'm indicating here is that she didn't know the Jensens back then. She was familiar with the Jensens in '98. In fact, I recall her saying things about the book club and so forth. But several years before that, she did not know the Jensens that well and did not know anything about the prowling problem that they had. But she does recall that the police department did ask her if they saw anything unusual at the Jensen house.
Here's my concern. Is there anything else that you tell us in this police report about your conversation? You just told us some other things that you say happened in that conversation. Did your report reflect anything else about your conversation with Carrie Ashley?
I'd have to look through my report, but I believe there's some other things possibly here about Mrs. Ashley. To my memory, that...
Well, that's fine to look through your report, but understand I'm asking about the conversation you had within 1 week, not some later conversation, the first conversation. What can you tell me that you reported about that conversation?
I think it just stated that I did speak with her. I asked her about the prowlers at the Jensen home. She didn't know anything of that, but she did say that she knew the Jensens and knew of Julie.
Well, I'm asking you what your report says. The only thing I see in your report about the Ashleys, about this conversation you had within 1 week of Julie Jensen's death is, in speaking to the Ashleys, they knew little about the Jensens, except the police contacted them some time ago about prowlers around the home.
Objection, this has been asked and answered several times.
Is there anything else in your report about that conversation within 1 week of her death?
I don't believe so.
Prior to Julie Jensen's death, Officer Cosman came to speak with you about Julie Jensen, correct?
Yes.
That was about a week to 10 days before Julie Jensen passed away.
Approximately.
He had some photographs that he had developed.
Yes, sir.
he told you about what Julie Jensen had told him, right?
Yes,
You looked at the photographs, right?
yes,
You and Mr. Cosman decided not to do anything at that time, true?
I don't know what you mean by not do anything. I know Officer Cosman contacted and spoke with Julie about the photos. I did not.
Well, Officer Cosman told us he did not contact her.
I believe he went back and
Well,
had further communication with her.
you weren't with Officer Cosman, correct?
I was not.
Officer Cosman would probably know better than you what he did, right?
He would.
Did you do anything to follow up?
No,
Did you try to talk to Mark Jensen to see what was going on?
no,
Your understanding was Julie Jensen did not want anyone to contact Mark Jensen, true?
yes,
When you searched the home on December 3rd, you made decisions about what evidence to seize, correct?
that is correct.
You knew from this conversation with Officer Cosman that Julie Jensen had some concern about poisoning, right?
Yes,
So that was one of the things you were taking into account when you were making decisions about what evidence to seize on December 3rd, true?
yes,
You did not take any cleaning supplies from the home, correct?
I did not.
You did not look for chemicals in the garage, correct?
I guess when you say chemicals, it depends on what type of chemical you're speaking of. It's something that wouldn't have belonged in the garage. That would have certainly called my attention. If there were some garage chemicals inside the house, the other way around, then that would have been called to our attention and we would have probably documented it or noted it.
You weren't specifically looking for antifreeze, true?
True, I was not.
Did you note whether there was antifreeze in the home, either in the basement or the garage?
I did not notice.
It wouldn't surprise you if there was, because you wouldn't have thought that to be unusual, fair to say.
Actually, as I recall reviewing the video, that there's very possibly antifreeze in the garage.
There are bottles that would be consistent with that, correct?
Yes,
I take it that the video is not clear enough to definitively identify those as antifreeze, correct?
I wouldn't say that the video is not clear. I would say that the video doesn't, the bottles are on the shelf and the label is not exposed to where I'm taking the picture. So the bottles are recorded, but there's no labeling of the chemicals that are on the shelf in the garage.
So they're consistent with the antifreeze, very well may be antifreeze, but the video doesn't allow you to say these are antifreeze. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
You made decisions about what you seized, for instance, the bowl that you introduced into evidence, 2 bowls, correct?
Correct.
You also seized the glass, is that true?
No, we only seized the contents. Which glass are you speaking of, sir?
Well, there was a blue glass on the bedside table, is that right?
That is correct.
Did you seize that glass?
No,
You didn't send that glass for testing?
no,
Did you send the contents of the glass for testing?
yes.
There also were, let me show you Exhibit 171. That's the bathroom connected to the master bedroom.
Yes,
And there are some Dixie cups in that bathroom.
yes,
You did not send those for testing.
no,
You did not seize those cups.
no, we did not.
Let me show you Defendant's Exhibit 172. Does that depict the kitchen?
Yes,
And there are a number of dirty dishes on the counter, correct?
yes, yes,
You did not take the contents of those items for testing, true?
I did take this glass right here, which is in evidence, And it's right here if you need to look at it.
Let me see if we can put that on the screen.
Is that on, Becky?
And that's a portion of Defendant's Exhibit 172, but I think it's the one that shows it's the portion that shows some dirty glasses and dishes. There's a spoon. And can you tell me which glass you took? Able to point to it? We used to have a pointer.
Well, there's actually two glasses. I could show you much better than I could tell you.
I was asking, because I think we have a pointer maybe.
Here's one. Here it is. And there's one, Mr. Chambers had one for you if you wish.
Are you able to figure that out?
Yeah, I did. Let me find. I believe it's right in this area here. The picture is not very.
Which items did you seize, Mr. Ratzburg?
I can't make it out on this photograph.
Well, let me give you a smaller photograph and see if that helps you. Actually, here's what I'll do. I'll show you this again.
I do have a clearer picture of this object, and it's depicted in the video. I can't say from this photo, and given that you've blown it up, with any degree of certainty to which glass it was. You provide me with the other photos, I can possibly identify it, or I have the glass in evidence here.
Well, it looks like there's at least 4 glasses here. Maybe 5 glasses.
Yeah, the glass that I recovered, I did examine the empty glasses and the empty dishes here in the kitchen, and I did recover one glass that had what appeared to be, as I looked at it later, and from what I recall, it was some type of syrup in the bottom of it. In fact, the syrup is no longer in the glass, and I'd be guessing, Counselor, but I believe possibly it's that glass, but I can't say for sure.
Do you have that glass?
I do, sir.
Why don't you pull that out once?
This would actually be State's Exhibit 237. It's labeled glass found on kitchen counter with sticky substance on the bottom.
Are you able to pull that out so you can identify which glass? Okay. And so that appears to be perhaps, Detective Ratzburg, one of these, if you look at the screen behind you. Maybe it's not very clear when it's blown up. Are you able to see it all? There's a glass here and another one behind it.
Again, I know the video shows it, and I know that there's a better picture than what you have of that glass. There's more than one there. I know it's somewhat distinct in that particular photo because of the glass actually kind of looks unusual if you compare it to the other ones. The others appear not to have anything, in my opinion, suspicious, but this one had some liquid.
So did you have that glass tested?
No, I did not.
Well, you indicated that you thought there might be something suspicious in there. Why didn't you have it tested?
Well, as I had the other things tested to the crime lab, which included the bowl and things like that, I consulted with the crime lab as far as, and what we were looking for was ethylene glycol. This was after it was discovered in April/May of 1999. And I consulted with the crime lab and I suggested that they take all this stuff and test for it. And the analyst up there said, quite frankly, you can go through the stuff. Antifreeze is rather obvious. And I went through this and the other things and did not find any ethylene glycol or antifreeze.
Well, you didn't seize the other glasses, true?
Yes, I did not.
Yeah. Did you get it marked as an exhibit?
Yes, it's 259. I move exhibit 259. You have any problem with that?
No objection.
Detective Ratzburg, let's see if we can zoom in on that. That picture that shows the glasses on the counter a little more clearly.
Could I maybe look at your photo? It's a little distorted up here, and I do want to be absolutely sure. It's being hidden here by the Paxil tablets. I still believe there's another one. It would be either one of these two glasses.
And you're saying it could be the one that's right behind that Paxil box on the screen?
Yes?
Okay. You didn't seize those other glasses for testing, correct?
No, I did not.
And ultimately, you never had tested that glass, true?
Yes, that's true.
And when you're doing an investigation, Detective Ratzburg, you don't want to make too many assumptions about what you're looking for or not looking for. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
I mean, sometimes the crime lab finds things that you're not looking for that might be important, right?
Are we done with this one?
Yes.
I'm sorry, repeat your question?
Sometimes the crime lab finds things that you're not originally looking for, right?
Can that happen? Sure.
I mean, as of December 3rd, when you're making a decision what to seize or not to seize, you have no idea what you're looking for or what might be particularly important, true?
Well, we had some idea. From the information that we obtained, we took the medications, we took the bowls, we took the garbage, we obviously took this glass. So we did take a number of items. And can the crime lab find things that we aren't able to find? That's certainly possible, such as fingerprints or something like that.
They also can find evidence of chemicals left behind, correct?
Correct.
You didn't seize those Dixie cups out of the bathroom, right?
No, we did not.
There were Dixie cups in the garbage, true?
Yes,
And you didn't submit those for testing either, right?
I did not submit those for testing, no.
Did you document the contents of the refrigerator?
Yes, we did.
And where is that report?
Well, it'd be document and a photograph.
Okay.
You said document and
Yes.
photograph?
But from the photograph, can you tell what's in each container in that refrigerator?
No.
And you didn't make any effort to make a list of what items are in the refrigerator?
Well, there's some items you can identify and some you can't. When we took a picture of the refrigerator, you can obviously, as an example, there's ketchup and mustard. Some of the labels, just as we discussed about the garage, the way they're stored in the refrigerator, you can't exactly see. You can tell what some of the items are. You cannot tell what some of the items are. So
There are some like Tupperware kind of containers with leftovers. Is that right? Do you remember?
I don't recall, sir. That wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, I guess really my question is, you didn't try to document what was in that refrigerator other than taking a photograph, correct?
We didn't write a report to, or an inventory of the refrigerator or freezers. No, we did not.
And you cannot tell what everything is in that refrigerator by the photograph. Would that be fair to say?
That would be fair to say, yes.
You're aware Mr. Jensen reported his wife's condition through a 911 call, right?
Yes,
You were the lead investigator in this case?
yes.
Did you save that 911 call?
We attempted, and yes, we did try to save that.
Well, when?
Shortly after December 3rd.
Where's the report that the 911 call couldn't be saved?
And I'm going here by memory, but there was either, I did see a report on that. I know a request came in, and I cannot recall 9 years ago, 98, why the 911 tape wasn't recovered. And I just can't recall what the reason was, but we did attempt to recover that phone call.
Well, those calls are recorded, right?
For the most part, yes.
Well, they're all recorded, right?
All calls, meaning 911 calls?
Yes.
Yes. Keep in mind, back in 98, the technology is a little bit different than it is today, but
Detective Ratzburg, in 1998, all 911 calls were recorded, right?
yes.
Is there anywhere in that report, what's the report in front of you? That's the 32-page report that's dated 12/2/2002. Is it the printing date, I guess?
Is that mentioned in here?
No, what's the number of that exhibit?
D-258.
Anywhere in that report, is there anything about making an effort to save the 911 call?
No.
And you're aware that the defense requested the copy of that call as soon as they were filing discovery demands in this case, right?
I'm not aware of that, no.
In December of 1998, did you make any effort to obtain Mr. Jensen's work computer?
No.
You did ultimately obtain that computer from St. Louis in 2002 after Mr. Jensen's arrest?
Yes.
You obtained, at that time, you obtained two computers from his office, correct, in Racine?
Yes.
He had a work computer and a personal computer, right?
Yes.
And then you obtained an old work computer that was in St. Louis, right?
Yes.
And you obtained Kelly Labante's computer at that time that had been used by her in St. Louis when she worked for Stiefel Nicholas.
In 2002?
Yes.
Yes.
Those were all obtained after Mr. Jensen's arrest, correct?
Correct.
Now, as of December 3rd, 1998, you were aware that Mark Jensen had made statements that he was concerned that his wife...
Objection, Your Honor, as to any statements, the content of any of those statements.
The judge might be heard. Sidebar.
I guess it is time for a break. Please don't talk about the case during the break. Mr. Albee?
Judge, first of all, Officer Riley testified to this, that Mark Jensen had made those statements as of December 3rd. Second, and I don't have any problem with any instruction that at this time it's not admitted for its truth, because I mean it's already in, number one, so I certainly don't need it for that purpose. But we've admitted evidence throughout this whole trial in terms of what police do and why, based on what they were told or what they knew, and all I'm doing is the same thing. And it's relevant to show what they didn't do. Now, if they didn't have any information that Julie Jensen was depressed, well, then, you know, I really couldn't fault them for not talking to Mr. DeFazio. However, since they knew on December 3rd, 1998, that there was a claim that she was depressed, and their job is to investigate things objectively, it's relevant to what they did not do in this case, because that was something they were aware of at the time, the claim. It's not to introduce the hearsay, it's to show what the police did not do, and for the jury to judge the reasonableness of those actions given the circumstances that existed at the time.
Well, I disagree. First of all, I don't think the reasonableness of police investigation is at issue in this case, but if he wants to ask this detective, based upon any statements that you had at the time, did you go interview Mr. DeFazio, who allegedly provided some sort of counseling services to Julie Jensen in 1990? He can ask him that, and my understanding is that the answer would be no. But if he wants to ask whether he interviewed Mr. DeFazio, he can ask him that. Are we going to try to say, well, is the defense going to, in their closing argument, say, well, we think the police are stupid in this case? Well, what difference does that make? Pardon me?
I suspect that they are. I think he said that in his opening statement.
I don't think I'll be saying the word stupid.
Well, I understand that, but I think it was clear from voir dire that he was going to suggest that the police had not handled the case properly from even before the death of the Mrs. Jensen.
But, Your Honor, the defendant's hearsay statements are inadmissible.
Well, they're inadmissible to prove the truth of the matter asserted, but I guess I'm somewhat convinced by his statement that that it's being offered to suggest that the police had reason to. You know, the problem is your point about under investigation by the police, and I'm going to use that term. Your claim that the police under investigated the case is one that you're permitted to make, but what's the problem with Mr. Jamboy's suggestion that it just be pointed out that based upon that he, well, I guess I don't want to say it that way.
It's to be specific. It's to understand why it was important, because the person that lived with Julie Jensen made the claim, and so you should follow up on that. And second, in terms of prejudice to the state, this is already in. Officer Riley testified to these very statements. Further, as I said, this has come in a number of times in this case in terms of what state's experts did.
It certainly has.
And just because it's the defendant doesn't change it.
I think he's right about that. I mean, this is no surprise to anybody.
But, Your Honor, in terms of what things the officer chooses to follow up on, that's relevant. And there's a lot of things that are relevant to that. For example, within a day or two of Julie Jensen's death, he received a phone call from the defendant's own sister saying, I believe my brother killed Julie.
Well,
now, so maybe that would influence the decision.
I know all about that. Now, let's listen. It may be that he's opening the door to things that you'll bring up on cross-examination as to why.
Redirect.
No. Listen, if you're going to, no, just a minute. If you are going to try to show that the police department didn't act in a certain way when one would think that they should have because of information that they had in their possession, you're opening the door to the district attorney asking questions to show why they didn't follow up on something. Now, I'm not talking, by the way, about Laura Koster's remarks, or the remarks that are attributed to her, as being necessarily receivable on that issue. But the point is a fair one that if you're going to suggest the police didn't do their job properly and thus have ensnared the wrong man, it strikes me that you're opening the door to the district attorney showing why the police acted in conformity with, or why they acted in the manner in which they did. So I'm going to overrule the objection, but you have now the caution as to what the response may be.
Can we be clear about the statement that the DA brought up, that that's not coming in?
Ms. Koster's statement doesn't seem to be directly responsive to this.
Why would it not be? If I was a police officer investigating
because his sister
an equivocal death, If I was a
Oh,
police...
she gave her opinion that he was capable of killing?
She said more than that. She said that she had a conversation with Julie Jensen a week and a half before Julie died. She said that she believed her brother murdered Julie Jensen. That's what she said to this
but
detective.
her belief is that supposed to guide the police, what his sister believes?
It is certainly a factor to be considered when you couple that with Julie Jensen's...
Watch out.
When you
Watch out. Watch out.
Watch out for what, Judge?
Watch out. I don't want to go down that road. We'll have to have extensive discussion about that before you go into that, and I'll forewarn you that the bias is very strong against the receipt of that evidence.
And
It was
Judge,
so important to Mr. Ratzburg
Well, I wasn't
that he put it,
finished.
Just a minute.
that he put it in his report a year
Just
later.
a minute.
I thought you were talking to him.
That's a collective statement.
Okay, I understand now.
All right. You finish.
in terms of being careful, Judge, the jury is not in the room. I'm not trying to improperly influence the fact finder in this case. I'm merely making
But
a
I'm
record.
forewarning you, I don't want to go into Laura Coster's remarks without prior approval. Don't
will.
ask any questions about that without our further discussing it.
I think
And
I've
I'm
been-
not going to take the time to discuss it now.
Okay.
Because it may never come up.
I think I've been very diligent, Your Honor, about informing the court and counsel things outside the presence of the jury before I spring them on the court, and I would certainly not raise the issue of Laura Coster's statement to Detective Ratzburg without first addressing that outside the presence of the jury, particularly in view of the court's rulings on this subject up to this point.
What more could I ask? Now, what did you want to say?
Well, I mean, it was so important to Mr. Ratzburg, he didn't put it in a report for over a year later.
We're talking about something that's not on the table right now. I don't want to talk about that.
I don't either, but when somebody goes on and on about stuff that's not in the record, sometimes I feel I need to respond.
All right, you've said it. So now, did you want to say anything further since you won on your objection?
I don't.
Question
It's
answered
just
or not?
what's that?
Knowing that it may open a door.
I honestly don't see what this would open the door to, because a police officer's job is to objectively look at the circumstances there in terms of what they have available to them, and they certainly don't prejudge a case like that. And this is just information they had that they could follow up on.
Well, I don't doubt, and I let me guess that if the lieutenant were asked, he would testify about all the false leads they get in notorious cases, and which ones they decide to pursue and which ones they don't. And I don't want to. I don't want to get into a trial about the hierarchy of what they should follow up on and what they shouldn't. And especially on something like this particular business, which is, the bottom line is that in fact this was ultimately followed up on, no?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, we know all about it, at least, I guess maybe that's an overstatement, but the bottom line is here. I'm going to call the jury back in, and you can decide whether to ask your question again. That's up to you. Take 5 minutes. 5 minutes to the hour.